So what we're going to do now is I've started off by drawing the nose, okay, using Oil Pastel. And you can see there that obviously it's only got a couple of layers. All right, but what I want to do is talk to you about and show you. A lot of people, when they're drawing portraits, you draw, and I've done it as well, is you draw the facial features as completely separate to the rest of the face. That's not the case at all. All right, if you take a look here, can you see how the nose blends into, okay, even when it's more defined than mine here, but can you see that? Oh yeah, though, yes, your head wants to see a line there. It isn't a line, all right? There is a very subtle change in shades, and that's what you're looking for. So although I have drawn the nose, or I've started shading the nose, what I want to do is kind of show you how you kind of then seamlessly go from the nose into the cheek, all right, and then into the eye, all right, and then kind of just blend everything together. So what I want you to try and do is completely and utterly separate yourselves from the facial features and the face. All right, I want you to treat the entire thing as one, even though, yes, all right, the eyes and my mouth and these lines here appear separate. I need you to try and pretend that they are all together, and that is quite hard for you to get your head around. It's also really hard for me to demonstrate, to try and demonstrate. Okay, so hopefully you've had a play with the techniques, all right, that we used in the previous video. So I have here a piece of tissue. All right, to basically, as you can see, there is just a tiny bit of blue on the edge of my oil pastel. That is not going to work very well. So my suggestion is rub it onto a piece of tissue. You can rub it onto a piece of paper, but the grain of the paper pulls the oil pastel away from the actual oil pastel, so it wears it away quite a lot more. All right, you can see that from here. Whereas you see here, it's nice and softly blended because it's just got rid of, all right, that excess colour, all right, rather than kind of wearing away at the actual kind of creating ridges, if you want. Right, so you're better off doing that anyway, so you've got a nice blended oil pastel. So if you're going to use, let's just use this blue. Let's just use this as an example. You can see here that's quite dirty. It's got different shades of blue and white on it. If I was going to use this in this portrait, all right, that's fine. But when I apply it, you can pick up all of these different kind of bits on the end of the oil pastel. And you can also, when you kind of press down on it, you're going to get quite a sharp edge. Whoops. So we want to make sure that we use that. Just rub it over. Oh, there you go, you got rid of a big clump there. Right, and just simply kind of brush it onto your tissue. All right, just to create almost, I guess it's like a neutral tip. Okay, so I'll do the same with this red, just so that I'm all ready. All right, before I get started. Okay, so I'll put that to one side. I will likely carry on with that in a bit. All right, so I put my oil pastels on the tissue, the ones that I'm going to use. It's just the way that I work. All right, I'm going to pick up this skin colour. I'll have a look at my portrait. Try and have that to hand as well. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just use this skin colour first. All right, and I'm going to go from this side of the nose and blend it upwards. First of all, though, as you can see, I've kind of sketched the face very, very quickly. You need to take that top layer of pencil off your page, because that top layer will then blend into your oil pastel, and you don't want that. Can you see where it's done it there by accident? I've got a bit carried away. All right, so just take the top layer off, so you can still see where your features are. Okay, So you can barely see the eye in that video. Thankfully I can. Alright, so all I'm going to do here is I can see that there is a shadow around there. So I'm just going to start working into that. Okay, not pressing on too hard. I want to be able to tell the difference between, and sorry, I'm going to have to try and do this so that you can see the picture, but I'm also going to have to work out, kind of look underneath it as well. Can't fit the two in together. So apologies if this doesn't turn out as well as it probably could do, but hopefully you'll get a good idea of it. So I'm just looking for the main highlights of the face, the main kind of light here, the blush. I'm going to have to move that. Sorry, it might mean that you are missing a part of it now, unless I can do it like that. It's fine. Yep. So can you see here, all I'm doing is I'm just kind of doing it really softly at the moment. Not pressing on too hard or anything like that. Because the harder you go, you just can't rub it out then. Alright, so see here, although it looks like I kind of finished the nose, I haven't. Alright, and you can see where I pulled it in. Alright, pulled in some of the colour. Just starting to work around the eye a bit here. Okay, don't get too stressed about this. It's easy to think, right, well, I don't know where I'm going to put the darker shades now. You've just got to trust yourself. Just keep looking at the object, keep looking at your portrait. I'm just going to press on a little bit harder here because you can see that that's kind of taken with the hat. And even into my eyebrow here. That, you know, yes, that could be brown, but it still needs that hint of skin colour into it because there's skin underneath it. And also it's human. Right, so I'll bring that around. Don't want to cover up the eye too much, but I am going to start and put in a little bit from the eye. Just underneath. It's quite tough because your oil pastels are quite thick. Okay, then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a little look and see where there's maybe a slight hint of yellow. All right, here, can you see it? It's probably just from the camera. Hopefully I don't have yellow skin, but I'm just going to add a touch of that in there. This is where you need to look for. There's just subtle changes in the skin colour. All right, and now I'm going to go through with my red. And you see where you got the blush of the cheeks. I'm only going to add a little bit in. Remember what I said before. We don't want to be adding in too much red. There's only a very, very, very slight bit of red in the face. Okay. Finally, brown. Again, we don't want to be going too mad with this. Not at this point. We're only putting in, at the moment, the general tones. So there's quite a bit in the eyebrow there. A little bit coming around here, look. Don't put any eyelashes at the moment. Forget about them. Just look for the tone. With a portrait, do using oil pastels. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Okay, now if I was going to carry on, I would then carry on up here, but I haven't put the skin tone in yet. All right, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. But what I'm doing here, you want to try and do across the whole thing. But that's sometimes quite difficult to do. All right, so don't worry if you are going to do section at a time. Just don't be tempted to go too far up and don't finish. So like I did with the nose, I kind of pulled the colour into it. All right, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go back to this skin tone, and I'm just going to start blending it in slightly. So like we did with that circle. All right, I'm not pressing on too hard with it. All right, I'm just going to use lots of different directions just to calm down some of these colours. Okay, still looking at the portrait. Where you start to get towards the eye, you want to be a bit more careful with the way in which you're blending it in. Okay. I'll just try and blend a bit more in for the eye there, the eyebrow there. I'll sort the eye out in a minute because you see the colours are similar, but we are going to use different colours for that. So now look, I'm just going to start. I don't want to move into that part of the face yet. I just want to focus on this bit. So, but I am going to take it up so it blends. Okay, and then there's a little bit here. Okay. White. Okay, this is common now as a proper blending tool. All right, so what we're now going to do is I'm looking, I am not guessing. Okay, I'm looking at where the different tones of the skin are. Okay, and when you start to move around, you might find actually, I need to add a little bit more in here. So here, there is more of a shadow, so I'll work into that later. Just getting the general tones in at the moment. Just trying to blend it in. Remember making sure that the eye and the nose and the cheeks blend in seamlessly. So even taking it up here for now, even though I know I'm not going to finish that off yet. So look at the direction that I'm using the oil pastel. I'm not going straight down, I'm changing it constantly. Okay. Okay, so what's happening now is you'll see, okay, that my oil pastel is picking up too much of the skin colour. I need it to be a bit more white. So I just use my tissue, Okay, and rub it off. And then start to work into it again. Okay, just making sure that I've got everything blended how I want it to be blended for now. Okay. Make sure that you're getting rid of these little bits here, all right, because those little bits will probably contaminate your drawing. All right, so that's the basic tone. All right, now again, if I start building up, and I know we've still got a lot of work to go here, all right, but we can start to work into it here. So, you know, you can see where I've not quite finished the nose, but we now want to start thinking about how, and you must remember to take the top layer of your pencil off, like I keep forgetting. My concern is if I take the top layer of pencil off all in one go, I will then lose where I'm supposed to be going. All right, so that's why I only take it off a bit at a time. Okay, if you're going to sit there and do the whole portrait, then you're fine. All right, but you can start working into, all right, the lips. Okay, build it up. All right, so basically you want your whole face, all right, to be this blended, subtle skin tone. All right, so we you kind of look like you've applied makeup and not added in any eyeliner or anything like that. All right, that's what you're aiming for that first layer. All right, then what we're going to do is, you can see, all right, we need to start defining this a little bit more. All right, so that's when I start to work into it with the colours over the top. All right, and this is where I start to add a bit more definition. Okay, so now I could almost like start drawing, right, with the oil pastel. All right, and here we see it's quite a bit darker there. We need to calm this brown down, all right, with that black. And I'm not going to work over, I'm not going to blend this in with a white at the moment. I want to blend this in with this skin tone because I don't want it to be white, obviously, because it's a darker shadow. So all I'm going to do is, because I don't want this to go too far into the shading that I've got on my page, so all this lovely kind of subtle shading, I'm now just going to kind of put a tiny amount of pressure onto it, and I'm just going to feather that shading into the other part of the face, because if I press on really hard now, so I'm almost using rubber to blend it, but if I press on really hard, it's going to pull it right into the face, and I don't want that. Okay, where I feel that it probably could do with being pulled right into the face, I can do that. All right, we see there, it doesn't take much for it to get pulled too much into the face at all. All right, and that's this subtle shade here. All right, so that's where you've got to be quite careful with it. Yep. I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to squint at it a bit, all right, and just make sure that I'm happy, all right, at the moment with what I've done here. Okay, now that's how you kind of start to add the shadows, and you might feel that you want to add a little bit more here as well. All right, and here it is more of a kind of black, brown, grey. So therefore, all right, I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown. Not too much because it's not quite like the same shade. Okay, and I'm going to blend that brown in with a little bit of grey. pressing on reasonably hard, but not, again, not too hard. Just push that away so I can see it a bit better. Okay. And then there's a little bit more here, so I'm going to put that in as well. I'm using this one very much like I did this bit here, all right, where I just used the skin colour, okay, to kind of blend it in rather than kind of blend it in completely like I did before. Okay, and then for now I'm going to leave that, but you could then add the skin tone over the top. But I just think for now, when we need to kind of leave that and see what happens with the rest of the eye when I've added in the eyebrow. All right. So these, don't forget that these are details that you might have a go at once you've done the whole face. I'm just going to put in some of the definition of the eyebrow here. So these are the marks. And then they get a bit fuzzy there. All right, so I'm now going to go back to the grey. And I'm going to use that a bit more of a blending tool, because again, we don't want to be applying the skin colour too much to this bit here. At least I don't think so at the moment. Okay, so I'm just using that to blend that in slightly there. All right, and then I'm going to get a bit of brown. All right, because at the end of the day, the eyebrow's got a brown tinge to it. All right, and I'm just going to start adding in that brown. Right, over the top, and we can see here that kind of goes a bit more brown into the hat, but again, I've only just kind of started doing that bit. All right, and then yeah, let's try the skin color. Just so, again, I'm just pressing on it really, really, really light, and I think I'll just use a bit of that skin color there just to blend the eyebrow into the top of the head there, because it kind of gets a bit blurry here, doesn't it? I'll probably just extend that up. Okay, now looking at this, I can see that it's just a touch more grey under the eye, so therefore I'll just add a tiny bit. Okay, all right, so that's part of it. Now we've got the scary bit. All right, I mean, we can keep working into this, we can keep building it up, we can add more skin colour into it and so on. It takes a bit of time to kind of start working into this part here. So for example, around here I could add in, you know, more subtle grey shadows to kind of pull out the nose. The video looks slightly different. It's showing the contrast between the light to dark is very, very strong, whereas it's not quite like that on the picture, so hopefully you just have to trust me with that. All right, and then I will just use that skin colour just to kind of blend that in a little bit more, and I can keep building up until I'm happy, all right, that I've got the right tone to kind of pull out the nose. Again, you can't quite see it on the video because it's so subtle, but yeah, hopefully when you have a go, you'll be able to spot it yourself. I can kind of add a bit more white into the nose here, kind of pull that out. And what I like about oil pastels is the fact that you can just keep working into it until eventually you get, you know, the effect that you're after. You're just going to have to be careful with going too dark too soon. And obviously with the features, you're going to have to get your drawing right first. Okay, so right, so what we're going to do now, you're going to be really careful with the eyes, all right? And we're just going to start with a grey. You're never going to get the eyes absolutely perfect like a pencil drawing, all right? Because these are thicker. So you're just creating, all right, an impression at the moment. Okay. Now notice I'm not going to go into the pupil just yet. I'm just going to get rid of, keep, for this, because there's a bit more detail. All right, I am going to just keep cleaning my oil pastel. On my pupil, or the iris. Alright, there's quite a bit of grey shade in there. And there's not much of a differentiation here between the darkness of the eye and actually the eyelashes. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that in a little bit. Okay, so at the moment I'm quite happy with what I've done with the eye. So I'm now going to start with the iris of the eye. So I'm now just going to add in again with your grey. So we don't really want to go black, not yet. Just build it up slowly. Okay, so just start pulling in the colour. Okay, because we want that grey to go all the way around the eye. Okay, just getting rid of that oil pastel. Be careful when you do that. You might prefer to use tissue. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start thinking about what colours are inside of the eye. So for me, there's a bit of green and blue. Now you've got to be really careful with this because these are bright colours. So I'm just going to add in a very, very slight hint of blue. And you see it is very, very slight. I'm just going to add that into the grey. And then I'm also going to add in just a touch of green. Again, just a tiny, tiny amount. And now I'm going to go back to, this grey. And I'm just going to really carefully pull in. Alright, Carl, calm down. Alright, the colours of the eye. Now I don't want to be getting, I need to be spotting the highlights. I need to be able to put the white bits of the eye in. Alright, so I'm trying my hardest to leave some bits out. It might be that at this point you get yourself a knife and maybe sharpen part of your oil pastel. Okay, so happy with that at the moment. And then what I'll do now, okay, is get my white and making sure I give this a really good clean on my tissue. Alright, and now I'm going to add in the highlights. Just a solid bits of white. And I can use that as a bit more of a blending tool to lighten some areas. Alright, remembering that we don't just have completely solid highlights here. Alright, and finally go with the black, making sure it's nice and clean and definitely having sharp edge to it. Okay, and now I'm going to start to add in very, very cautious, okay, dark bits onto the eyes. Okay, being really careful because we don't want to outline it. We don't want to darken it too much. Okay, so I'm just going to start being a bit cheeky and starting to go into the eye a little bit there. See, this is becoming more of the pupil. and it's even a highlight in there. So this is why we need to be very careful with what black we're putting and where. Okay, and now again I go back to the grey, because we don't just want that pure black, we need to keep that blended. So it's like the bit that we did here. So I'm just going to be quite rough and ready with it. And just start to kind of work into that. This is where you've got to be careful, because you don't want to be pulling in too much from your highlights, okay? You don't want to go over them. You need them to be able to be, you know, still jump out of the page a bit. All right, now again, clean your white, and then just exaggerate your highlights again. Okay, now if you wanted to at this point, right, you could then just, you know, you can start to work into the top of the eye, all right, with your black, just to try and pull it out a bit more. But that's something that I would do, you know, right at the end. You know, when you've finished everything, you're happy that you've got it all blended, but you just want to pick certain features out a little bit more, all right, then you might start to add in your, you know, like the feet, I could put in the eyelashes there, for example. All right, so what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to start to add a little bit of white into the white of the eyes. Okay, so again, not pressing on too hard. You shouldn't need to press on too hard at this point. Okay, and I'm drawing in the eye there. What we can do is we've got the, we can use a brown, okay, because we've still got to put in the eyelashes here, so we can start to add in. All right, if again, this is something you do right at the end, but I'll demonstrate how you can do it here. All right, so you can start to kind of add in a bit more detail around the eyes. Start off with your brown